Alrighty, now I know that we're okay. What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody is doing well this Monday night. Welcome to Note Night in America, the live version. I know it's been a little while since we've done a live version. I know we've restreamed some stuff, but I thought this tape that we have, this list of notes that we got in, was worth doing a live breakdown. I know that a lot of you guys, it's one of your favorite things when we actually break down the list of notes available. I know that nobody else does that, and it's a rarity for you guys to see that done. I mean, happens very often for my students, but we're really excited to have you guys join us here tonight as I'm seeing a lot of people out there. How do you find non-performing notes? How do you evaluate them? And it's unfortunate that there's not enough people going through this stuff like we do on a regular basis. So anyways, welcome to Note Night in America. We've been doing this for over 14 years. And just honored to share some great information with you tonight as we go through this list of notes. We've got a couple hundred people RSVP to be on the call tonight. Some are obviously registered just to get the replays, and that's A-okay. I don't have a problem with that. Some people would rather watch the Dallas Cowboys versus the Houston Texans tonight, or to have other things going on. But one of the things I want to go through with you guys tonight is I want to show you how to find the opportunity. I think that's one of the most important things, is that when you get tapes in, and yes, we get tapes in on a regular basis. This is not by any means any rare thing. I saw a video on LinkedIn with 4 guys in the note business, 3 out of the 4 that I've taught, and they're talking about how, it's hard to find deals and that non-performing notes aren't as prevalent as they used to be. Yeah, they're not as prevalent as they used to be, but there is still a tremendous amount of them available if you just know where to look and if you will market. This tape came to me, not me reaching out, actually the hedge fund reaching out to me to evaluate the deal to make offers on it. And so that's why I'm breaking it down for you guys tonight to give you some opportunities. If you're a one-on-one coaching student or a WCN, our membership members, you've got access to the tape. We posted this in Basecamp for you. For those of you who don't know, our Basecamp is an online message portal that we share files and stuff like that with our coaching students and WCN members. And you can get signed up for that at just $97 a month by going to noteumbrella.com. I will not send this out just to any willy-nilly person to make an offer on. You need to be signed up, be a membership of that. We work too hard for our deals, and our students pay for access, and it's still the biggest bang for buck in the industry at $97 per month. But anyway, glad to see Drew, Jim, Kevin, Lalo, Dale, Paul, Sterling, Terry, Todd, Victoria, Joe, Boyd. More and more people logging in as we get rock and roll, as the email gets sent out to people to remind you tonight. So I'm going to tell you right now, there are no dumb questions. I've enabled the chat roll open so you guys can ask questions as we go through these. We upload this list, I believe it was Thursday or Friday, for people to take a look at throughout the weekend. And so if you have any questions about a specific asset, we can get to that later on. But what we want to do first is kind of go through the whole tape, show you some of the formulas that we run to kind of help make it easy to help you identify the deals from the duds, and go from there. But anyway, a little bit about the tape. So on the tape, there's 278 first liens. And out of that 278, there are 69 reverse mortgages. And most of those reverse mortgages are in Florida. There's a couple in New York State, but most of them are in actually God's waiting room, sunny Florida. All right. And I'll show you how we decipher those and pick those out immediately. I know that some folks missed that when they were looking at the tape. If you didn't know what to look for, yeah, you're going to miss it. Just think it's all non-performing notes and think that, oh my gosh, this guy, whoever these borrowers are, not paying anything. Out of this, it did give us a classification of how far behind these borrowers are. In the 0 to 30 day range, there was 2. In the 30 to 60 day range, late 9. In the 60 to 90 day range, there was 5. And then the 90 to 120 days were 2. Now we'll go through those, because those are possibly the ones, if you're looking for non-performing notes that you can pick up at a discount for cash flow, that would be kind of the starting point, especially the 90 to 100, these 7 down here. We can go through that, but and dive that a little bit. I'll tell you, this hedge fund is interested in moving there, looking to sell stuff at a discount. Not 2010 discounts, but they're still looking to move some stuff. 120 days late, 51 of those. Okay. And then the ones that have no payment history, or no payments whatsoever, really, is 209 of those. Okay. Now, the great thing is that out of 201 of these assets, the first legal has been filed. And in some of them, the not just a notice of default has been filed, but literally they've started to file for like the judgment and stuff like that. So there is some stuff going on. I will tell you that most of the legal wasn't filed until May or June of this year. So they're literally 3 to 4 months into some of the stuff. So in some of the longer states, you're just at the beginning of the process. But at least, hey, the first legal filed is better than nothing. You know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? It's progressing, and that's one thing to take a look at. Now, give you a bit of an idea. 46.4 million in total UPB. An unpaid principal balance. That's a loan level price, UPB of about $167,000 per note. Legal balance is 87.6 million. That's an average of 315,000 average. That's why we have 200 of these in default, basically. No payments made. They're quite a bit under a lot of distressed debt. The fair market value on the whole tape is 101 million in fair market value, with BPOs done primarily this year. There are some that are last year in 2023, but most of them are in this year. And if you want to make offers, just if you're part of your Basecamp group, just make offers directly there. Email me directly. Otherwise, if you're not a part of that, you can get signed up for a monthly membership at $97 a month by going to noteumbrella.com. Very simple, noteumbrella.com. Not only is it going to give you access to these lists that we have that we're going to break into, it's going on to give you access to weekly coaching calls, discounted classes, all sorts of great stuff out there. Now, speaking of classes, before we dive into it, we do have an upcoming class in person in Austin, Texas. That's right here in the big ATX. We're doing an in-person virtual note buying workshop, aka Note Buying for Dummies, in February 14th, 15th, and 16th. Yes, I know that's Valentine's weekend. Get it. I understand it. Fall in love with notes. Bring your wife into town. Let her go have fun. Come hang with us and learn about notes for 3 days. It's a write-off, okay? Stay an extra day and take him or her out to where you really want to go. But we're going to have a good time. I promise. If your spouse is in town with you, she's going to have a good time on the 14th. We're going to make it a special event for you. And it will be fun. Good to see that, Dale, you're going to plan on being there. Now, if you're a WCN crew member, you get a little bit better discount. Now, what is it? It's 3 days of content in Austin, Texas, February 14th, 16th. Only 50 seats available. And I mean that. The hotel that we have our event at, 50 seats is really the max. Really like 40, 45. But 50, we can still fit 50 in there pretty comfortably. As long as we get 10 people, we're doing the class. Okay? 50 is the max that we'll go. And if you've never been to one of my classes, you know that if you have been, you know that we feed you, we take good care of you. We make it an event that you really enjoy. You're going to have some great networking. You can get signed up at notebuyingfordummies.com. That's the link to the workshop if you're not a WCN crew member. Normally it's going to be $14.97 for the class. We're running basically 35% off, 33% off, special at $9.97. Okay. Now that includes replays of the previous workshop we did online. It also gives you a 200-page manual plus some other fun stuff that we'll be throwing in, a new manual and some other forms at the class. You also can bring your business partner or spouse at no additional cost. Okay. No, it's not $500 extra to bring your spouse, your business partner. They're included. And like I said, the next live workshop, I've committed to doing 2 of these a year in person, but the next in-person won't be until August or September of 2025. So you can come in February, or you can wait till August. Now, if you sign up for February and can't make it, yes, I'll allow you to come in August, September. All right. I will not, if you come in February, I will not allow you to repeat for free. I'm sorry, just can't do that with our small classes and what it costs to put on a live event these days. But you can attend the virtual workshop at no additional cost that we'll host in the middle somewhere, okay? In April or May. But anyway, guys, we're really excited about this. Get signed up for this, notebuyingfordummies.com. If you're a WCN crew member, you get a little better price on that. And that link is in Basecamp. We posted it last week for you guys. But love to have you there. Get signed up. Don't dally on this. If you need a discount before the end of the year, here's your opportunity to get a tax write-off before the end of the year towards education. And come spend 3 days with us and get some good barbecue, good food, good fellowship, and good fun, and making some money when it comes to being a note investor. So, do you have to be a dummy to attend? No, no. We like to make people smarties, not dummies. All right. But anyway, let's move on here to, oh, that's that it. All right, so let's dive into the spreadsheet now. You're probably not going to see me on camera tonight because my eyes are bugging me a little bit, but that's okay. You don't really want to see me. You want to see the spreadsheet. Okay, so here is the spreadsheet. Basically, let me pull something else up here. All right, so this is what we want to look for. Mapping wise, to give a bit of an idea where it is across the country. Now, I did go ahead and delete off in New York State because nobody buys in New York. So outside of New York State, to get everything in the map, you can see we've got a couple up in Washington State. You can see one in Southern California, some in Texas, but a lot are going to be east of the Mississippi, quite a bit in Florida, as I said, and then others across New England area, stuff like that. So that's kind of the map aspect of it. Okay. Now, if you'd like to, let me just do this for you guys. Copy that. I'm going to throw this in the chat roll for everybody. This is the batch geo link. So it does give you addresses in the batch geo link if you're tuning in live on Zoom. If you're not live on Zoom and you're watching this just on YouTube, you're missing out. But anyway, so it gives you, it's a pretty good mixture of where we're looking at buying for the most part. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean, let's see, anyway, moving on from that, you can kind of see it's all over the place a little bit. And they're not bad assets. If you want to spend some time and dive into this, look at this individually, that's fine. But as we dive into the assets tonight, please keep your questions specifically to the content of what we're talking about. If you have a question about a specific individual asset, please wait until we get to opening up questions at the end about individual assets, okay? Nothing that gets me irritated faster than somebody asking me an oddball question and not paying attention, okay? So no offense to you guys. And if you're listening to replay, feel free to ask a question. I'm glad to answer as we go, but we often will answer the questions as we go through it anyway. So let's pull up the spreadsheet and let's start looking at some numbers on here. Okay, so all right, let's first go through some of the columns so you know exactly what we're talking about here. Can I get a thumbs up that you guys can see the spreadsheet? I want to make sure of that. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Terry, thank you. Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you. All right. Terry, look forward to talking to you later. All right. So we've got our master ID. That's like a loan number. The servicing loan number. You can see who the servicing company is. It's Land Home Financial is the servicing company on that out of California. Delinquent status 1. These are all active. Means that they're being serviced and there's some sort of active going on. Delinquent status, active foreclosure, active BK, current, pre-foreclosure. That's kind of different, 4 different stats. It's active BK, active foreclosure, current, or it's in the pre-foreclosure state. Servicing date. All right. The due date. I believe the servicing date on this is when Land Home took over the asset. Okay. P&I constant, that means the principal and interest amount. The taxes and insurance, that's the T&I constant. Now, what you have going on here, then you have basically some P1, CP2, P13. This is basically 12 months of P&I payments. So the last 12 months of payments, which you see that great, but they also have a second column in here. I'll get to that in a second. The payment history cutoff date. So this is all through as of October 31st. So as of Thanksgiving. So it's only about 2 weeks old. All right. The deferred balance. Now, the deferred balance could be anything. It's been kicked to the back end, deferred late, deferred interest, that kind of stuff. Now you get into the information. And let me do this. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. That's easier for everybody to see. Unpaid balance. That's unpaid principal balance. The total balance. The corporate advances, that would be taxes, insurance that's been advanced on behalf of the borrower. Escrow balance, so if they paid anything towards taxes and insurance, it's sitting there waiting. Any accrued interest. And then you have the estimated legal balance added to that. Okay. So that's kind of the number we're going to go off of, especially estimated legal balance for a big chunk of this, because most of these have equity. Most of these, they owe less than what the property is worth, but there's also a good chunk where there's negative equity too. They're upside down. Last payment date, when they were making payments. Days since the last payment, you can see that starts getting out there in days, 200, 1,300 days. The last payment bucket, if they've ever made any payments or not. The interest rate on the loan. The modification flag, so you can see if the borrower's ever been modified before. The lien type, if it's a first lien or second. These are all first liens, okay? Original term, whether this was a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, how many years, okay? The remaining term, when that loan matured or when it does mature, the original maturity date. BK flag, yes or no. So the yes, they filed bankruptcy. No, they haven't. Foreclosure flag, yes, if it's in foreclosure. No, if it's not in foreclosure yet. The foreclosure start dates, and you can see on these start dates, they're relatively pretty clean. Some of them started back in the day, but for the most part, a lot of these are relatively new. The foreclosure status, if they're active or if there's an REO on these things, it means they've been foreclosed. Then you have the pay string, the 24-month of pay string. Okay, how many months they've paid or not, or how far behind they are. Their FICO score they don't give me a date for the FICO score, but I'd be willing to bet it's probably something in the last 12 months. Period 1 payment account. This is where you get into the 12 months if they made a full payment or not. So this 12 months, like here on this one, you see this bar made a full payment 7 months ago and 8 months ago, made a double payment in month 10. Why they have that in there, I don't know, because it's pretty easy to go back and look at the dollar amount. And if you know how much their P&I payment is, you could actually tell that way pretty easily. But anyway, it's in there. Great. Okay. Borrower's last name, first name, co-borrower last name, first name, co-borrower loan origination date, the original loan amount, the original lender, the original interest rate, and then you've got a bit of a duplicate here, original P&I payment, the first payment date, fixed or ARM, and most of these are going to be fixed. A few will be ARMs. Then you get to the property address, property city. Now, the big thing about this, you want to make sure it's the property address on any spreadsheet, not the mailing address. Sometimes some guy sent me a tape, it was all mailing addresses. I'm like, no, I need a full property address. Of course, he was a joker broker and didn't have anything. Current occupancy. This is important to know if it's vacant or occupied, especially if you're potentially looking to get it reinstated of some sort. The PK dates, the BK filing type, if it's a 7 or 13. If it was dismissed or discharged, or it's an active foreclosure. I mean, not starting active foreclosure, but a bankruptcy, that's important. Current property values, the latest property value dates. Who the lender pulled, basically the BPO company, to check the values. And then that gets into the legal aspect, which you don't usually see this a lot, which is really good. So filed to referred means it's been referred to an attorney for foreclosure. When that date was referred, if the first legal has been filed or not. So it's been this one here has been referred to an attorney, but nothing's been filed yet. Okay. Now this one down here, this was filed in September of 2022, and the first legal was filed in April of this year. Okay. Service completed means if it's been served, yes or no. So yes, the borrower was served basically their notice of default. So like some of these that are further down the road, which are great. Now, the thing about some of these are like non-judicial states. Like Texas doesn't really matter. I mean, 30, 60 days, you can be in and out of things. You just start the process. Same thing with like Georgia's pretty fast. Some of these have got a judgment on them, others don't. Okay. But that's the whole column. Now, does that make sense so far? Is there any questions yet about kind of the columns? Okay. Now, the one thing I did not discuss was how did I know which ones were reverse mortgages, right? All right. So let's do me a favor, guys. If you'll do me a huge favor, don't comment in the chat roll just to comment. Just leave the comments in the chat roll for questions so that I can stay on that. If you're just making comments, not to ask questions, it's going to throw me off and we'll be here a lot longer. Don't get me wrong, I love the comments, but let's just leave your comments to actual Q&A. Okay. All right. So if we go over here to the P&I payment, and used not to see a lot of these, but when we've started to see things going on, what's going on now, what's happening is you're starting to see more and more foreclosures, especially reverse mortgages, go the route of foreclosure. They're becoming more apparent in sales. Okay. So what do I do is you go to P&I constant here, principal and interest amount, and change that down to select all and hit a buck. Okay. A buck, that now shows you, oh, look at all these that are $1. Okay. And they're all going to say no payments made, basically. $1. And the reason a reverse mortgage is there's no payments being made. The borrower isn't reversing or making monthly payments. What they're doing is they're basically cashing out the equity like an annuity. And in a reverse mortgage, they'll pull money out of that. So there's a loan balance. And the borrowers on a reverse mortgage don't have to pay anything until they pass away. Right. And then when they pass away, the heirs, the kids of the family have the right, they have the first right of refusal, basically, to pay off the mortgage to keep the house. If they won't pay it off, then it goes to foreclosure. Okay. Or if there's no heirs found, they can still go to foreclosure. All right. So now you are looking at, these are our foreclosures, basically. No payments, no payments. And you'll see in a lot of these with $1. A lot of these, like the terms are like 782. How many months is 782? Well, that's a long time, 900 months. They're all long. So just disregard those. Don't really worry about those at that point. These are all people like 2081 when the loan matures. Well, okay. Why am I looking at a note that doesn't mature for another 57 years? Well, it's designed because it's a reverse mortgage. So don't get so bent out of shape about that. Okay. When you see something like this, the play on a reverse mortgage isn't to modify or reinstate. 99.9% of the time, it's going to be to finish the foreclosure. And that's why you see a lot of these are in active foreclosures, where foreclosure start dates have all been basically 22, 23, and 24. Okay. And all of these pay strings are all 0, 0, 0 because there's nobody making payments. It's not like a traditional mortgage on that. So basically, these assets, you have two tapes. Realistically, you have two tapes. You have the tapes of non-performing reverse mortgages that you're basically going to buy at a discount and then finish the foreclosure on. And then either A, sell it at the foreclosure auction, or B, if it doesn't sell at the foreclosure auction, you're taking that asset back and now selling it as an REO, cleaning it up, fixing and selling it, or keeping it as a rental if you want to do that. We're not going to get into the rental exit side of things. All right. We're just going to focus on the cash flow side of things. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to run some formulas across the place on here besides just the active reverse mortgage. I don't want to start a formula and only forget to post it on once. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to filter them all so that we have all 279. So then it's easier for me to run numbers. You know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? Easy for me to run numbers on it. And we're going to get rid of some stuff that we don't need to look at. Okay. Like we don't need to know that land homes are service from all of them. We'll get rid of them. We're going to get rid of the delinquent statuses. That'll all say active. We're going to leave delinquent status 2. All right. So we want to make this simple for us. Okay. The 12 months where it says sum of a P&I 1, we'll leave that in there, but we'll get rid of the 12 months of the payment amounts. Okay. History cutoff date, we're going to get rid of that. We don't need that column in there more. We know it's the end of October. Okay. UPB, total balance, corporate advances, escrow balances, leaving there. Accrued interest, estimated legal balance, we're going to keep that in there. Last payment date, keeping it. Day since last payment, we'll keep. Last bucket list, we'll keep. Interest rate, yes. Modification flag, yeah, we'll go ahead and keep that in there for the time being. Lien type, no. We're just going to get rid of everything because all these are first liens, okay? We're going to leave the original term, the remaining term. Current maturity date, we'll leave that. BK flag, yes. Foreclosure flag, yes. Start date, foreclosure status. Let's see, REO flag. These are all no. So we're just going to go ahead and delete them all. Pay string. We can see all these long pay string. Not really worried about it because we've got the last payment date. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one off. Some people would say leave it. I don't care. Now I'm going to get rid of these 12 months where it says period payment count. I don't need that. I can just look at what was paid in the last 12 months and realize, okay, 10 months is paid, right? All right. Now, borrow last name, borrow first name. Co-borrow first name, last name. That's good. Don't really worry about the co-borrow flag. Yes, no, not worried about it. We're getting rid of that. We got loan origination, original loan. I don't really need, so I'm going to go delete them off because I can always pull that back up. Okay. All right. Payment date, P&I payment, we're good. Property address, city, state, zip, good. County, good. Current occupancy, yes. BK information. I don't really care. Last property value. Vendor, we're just going to get rid of that. And you can see these dates on here. You're good. Everything else. Okay, so now we've gotten really kind of what we don't need anymore. Okay, now we've shortened it down so it's less for us to scroll left to scroll right. Okay. So now what I would do, let's start adding some information in here. Okay. So one thing that I like to do is, since we have a current value, you're going to base your bids off what they show on this tape. Now, what are they going to show on this tape? Well, they're first going to show you kind of the value. All right. So let's go over here and highlight this so you can kind of see latest property value. We're going to change that to a light green. Okay. Light green. Latest property value date and latest property value. Okay. And they're all relatively to where they're at right now. Okay. Okay. So fine. Now, what we want to do now, let's insert a column here. So we can start doing some formulas here. So we're going to say estimated equity. Now, equity would be taking the value of the property and dividing that by the estimated legal balance. So on this one, it's 164,350 minus the estimated legal balance of 79,387. Okay. We're going to change that to a dollar amount. If it pops up where it's a date, you just need to click on the whole thing and change that to a dollar amount. Okay. And this only says that only is worth what? What's my formula at? Oh, it's sorry, minus, not divide by. That's more like it. Okay, 164. 164 minus minus 80. 164 minus 80 should be okay. That's perfect. Yeah. Do it one more time. It's equal to 4 minus. Just to restate it, just to say the same. So whatever the current market value is minus the estimated legal balance. Enter. Okay, so that's right. Estimated equity. Let's go ahead and copy that formula all the way down. Now, some people would ask me, why haven't I got rid of states yet? Well, I'm just going to run some formulas that are important across it before I get rid of states, before I get some of these. Now, you could get rid of states if you want. Go ahead, that's fine. But for the sake of it, we're just going to run some formulas on here because that's where a lot of people want to look at. So let's go here first and format these cells and change these to currency and change it where if it's negative, it's got the negative in red. Okay. Boom. Now we know which ones have equity. Okay. And which ones don't have equity. Okay. All right. So that's a good thing. Equity or negative equity. Now let's go ahead and resource this. Custom sort. And change this to equity. My data has headers. And we're going to filter this by estimated equity. And we're going to do largest to smallest. All right, now we know which ones have the most amount of equity and the ones that are upside down. Now that's going to help us with our bidding, okay? Estimated equity, $1 million in equity, okay? They owe about 200. Okay, so estimated equity, which is great. Now, let's just scroll down here. Let the numbers work. So I'm going to look at anything that gets down to less than 20 grand in equity. All right. So when they have equity, that means they owe less than the property's worth. So if we click on here, insert column, we're going to say rough offering. Now, if they have equity, now you're going to adjust this number, but for the sake of it, we're going to go 80% of the legal balance just as a rough starting point, okay? So it's equal to, since there's equity, we're going to bid 80% times the estimated legal balance. We're going to go over here and find the estimated legal balance again. Boom. All right. I'm going to label this so you guys can know. 80% of legal or 65% FMV. Okay. So we're going to copy this formula down, Control C, copy this all the way down till we see roughly $20,000 in equity. And hit Control V. All right. Now this one, technically, whether there's a little bit equity or negative equity, we're just going to say 65% of value on this. So that's equal to times 0.65 because they're upside down. All right. So upside down, we want to be at 65%. So we're going to hit Control C and copy that down to the rest of the ones where there's really no equity. Boom, shakalaka. Okay, so now you have really, let's change this to a dollar amount. And there we go. Now we have our offering amount. This is kind of the most important aspect right here, okay? So let's change this to dark green, actually. Let's change this to yellow, actually. All right, so we know this would be our offering, roughly give or take a little bit, okay? Now, let's go over here. And we have the original P&I payments here. Okay, so let's go and enter in a couple columns here. $12 months payments, 16 months payment. Now, the whole goal, if it's going to be an occupied asset that we can get bar back on track, let's figure what would it look like if we get people to start paying 12 months of on-time payments, divide that by our offering. And if they're far enough behind, let's see what it would take to get them to bring at least 4 months to the table up front, plus a year of payments. So they're making 16 months of payments in 12 months. Okay. Does this make sense? Can I get a yes or no on the what makes sense so far? Not like me. All right, let's do this. So this is equal to, keep it simple. $12. Okay. And this is equal to 16 months. All right, so we got 16 and 12 months. So some of these are not going to make sense, especially with the reverse mortgage, where there's $1 paid. Okay. That's not going to make any sense at all. Okay. If there's negative equity, okay? If there's negative equity, yes, you based off of fair market value. Negative equity, that means they owe more than the property is worth. Okay, so they don't have any negative, they're upside down. They're upside down. So you're going to go off, it is based off of fair market value, not the legal. Now, if there is equity where the value of the property is way above the legal balance, you're not going to bid off of fair market value. You would bid off the highest bound of the legal, which would be 80% of the value of the legal at that point. Okay. The reason I figured the last 20,000, because 20,000 can be flubbed one way or another depending on when the BPO is pulled or not. Okay, does that make sense now, Dale? All right, good. All right, so we're going to copy that, Control C, and copy this all the way down, just to give us some rough numbers. All right, so we have roughly 12 months cash flow, 16 months of cash flow. All right, so now that we've got that, I'm going to make these both green, but most of these columns green. This is something I've added myself. So yeah, you see the one $12, you're not going to get that bar back on track. That's okay. All right, so now let's go over here. Since we know what we're roughly offering, 80% of legal or 65% of the fair market value, okay? Now we can figure in two columns in here. Insert two columns. Insert columns. So this would be the 12-month reinstate ROI, 16-month reinstate ROI, okay? So what are you going to do? Well, you just take the 12 months of P&I payments. 12 divided by the offering, what your pricing would be. Okay. And this would be 16 months divided by your offering. There you go. So we copy these all the way down, Control C, and run these down. That's if we get the bar back on track, okay? If it's occupied. Now, of course, we're running numbers for the full thing, so some of these are not going to make sense to reinstate or modify, especially if it's a $1 a month payment, right? But we're just trying to run some numbers on it. Okay. So now we have some better stuff to look at. Let's change this up. Change these to both percentages. There you go. That's better. Okay. Now, all right. So now let's do another thing. We'll just say if you had to foreclose, gross dollar amount. So if you buy this at a discount and then you foreclose, you're going to be either do the difference in the legal balance or the difference in the profit side. Now, this is planning on selling at auction. This is all you can kind of count on. Okay. So this is going to be basically your offering. I'm sorry, your latest property value. Nope. Actually, hang on a second. It's going to be your legal. Sorry. I got to switch this up there. So they've got, this is it, 80%. So this is going to be your legal. It's about right. We're going to run this down to where we see 20, about $20,000. Okay. Now this one is going to be your offering minus, let's say, oh, more really than it's worth. Perfect. Okay, so give me an example. Latest property value when this is 1.4. They have negative equity. So if it's worth 1.4 and you're buying at 65 cents on the dollar of the latest property value, that's what you're buying at 9.29, and you sell it at auction for the full value, not the negative value of the balance, but the as is value. That's where it'd be the 9.29 that comes in. Okay. So now we've got that rough REO aspect of things. Let's change that to dollar amount. There we go. There you go. So basically, you're foreclosing on these things. This is what you can roughly expect between what you're buying for the note that we end up foreclosing there, right? So some of these numbers are going to be all over the place. Okay. Now, before we start looking at these numbers and getting intoxicated on over here on the gross amount we foreclosed, or if we reinstate them, now we have to look at some things to make it a little bit differently. Okay. Now, if it's a vacant asset, can we all agree that you're not going to probably get them back on track? You're probably going to have to foreclose. So this is where looking at things where they're not, no payments made, this is where we can start filtering through the spreadsheet a little bit. Okay. So let's look at, now that we've got really our formulas in there for the most part, let's look at the ones that are 0 to 30 as far as the payment buckets. So last payment buckets right here. Okay. Boom. And let's filter these through. Get rid of the no payments. Oh, let's actually just look at the ones that are anything under no payments. Okay. So all the 0 to 30, and we'll get rid of 120 plus days. So the ones that are 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months behind, and get rid of those. Okay. So now that's what we're looking at. We're ones that probably are the most occupied assets, where they've got at least a chance of probably getting back on track. So you can see the last payment date on these things, right? July, September, July. Okay. But this now gives you the ones that are probably the most accurately available to get back on track. Now, I know that the seller on this is motivated to get these things moved. Okay. So you have 18 notes on here. And on average, these are averaging 54 days. So about 60 days across the board. Now, if we looked at these, let's do this. Let's make it a little bit simpler for you. We're going to paste this into a different spreadsheet. We're going to make it a little bit easier to read. So these are all the ones that view freeze payments. All right. So these are all the ones that are basically that low into behind. If you want to get a performing note on a lot of these, okay, you can see these that are paying. So if you look at these, we're just going to add these up. These P&I payments coming in. So these 18 notes, if they start bringing in, if they all start paying monthly on time again, 12 months, 92.70, okay? Cash flow. Now, what was our offering on this? We should have our formulas over here. There we go. So our offering on these, let's add these up. So if we offered these, that's roughly, is that right? Yeah. So on these, it's basically 1.2 million in unpaid balance on these. Okay. Now, the latest property values is going to be some. It's 5.28 million. Now, one of them is obviously pretty big. Okay. This big one up here, where they only owe a little bit, but that's okay. So if they got 1.2 million, it's generating in 9 grand a month in cash flow. Let's go over and figure out the annual income on. So let's do this is equal to taking our payment stream. Actually, let's just do this. We already got the 12 months here, so we just can add those 12 months together real fast. Okay. 12 months, we're going to auto sum that. So it's bringing in $111,000 a month in cash flow. If you get them to bring back on track, divide that by 111 divided by the 1.242 should be about 11%. Oh, it's actually, sorry, I get my math wrong. So that's about an 8.96% cash and cash return by buying these notes over here. All right. And that's not very exciting. Can we agree to that? Because they're all relatively kind of new. They're not really that far behind. Since they've got equity, you're basically buying these at roughly 80 cents on the dollar. Where's our numbers at on this thing here? Oh, because I copied it over. All right, so we go back over here. That's what it was. Okay, yeah. These are buying 80%. Yeah, these are all buying at 80%. So you got a little bit of equity, but not too desirable. But now here's the thing to keep in mind. Because these are all at 80%, okay? You buy in at 1.2, we get you at 9%. You've got a lot of property value, they don't stay. So this one doesn't necessarily work well for me because these are all relatively pretty much less than 90 days behind, right? Can we agree to that, everybody? So, not too shabby. Let's do this. Okay, let me change this. Less than 90 days or less behind. Okay, well, that's all right. That's one spreadsheet. Okay. Now let's go back over here. Let's go back to sheet number 1, which is the raw data. Okay. All right, so let's go back over here to those spreadsheets that are let's get rid of these. Let's look at these that are select them all. Bring them all back here. Now, let's look at let's look at those that are 120 plus past behind. Okay, so that gives us a bit more there, right? 128 plus days behind. Let's look at the P&I side of here, making sure we're not lumping any reverse mortgages in here. 12 months cash flow. Yeah, okay, so that's good. So those are potential. All right, so these now, how many are these? Let's see here. So this is 51. Okay, all right. Let's take these 51. We're gonna go and do another spreadsheet. Control V. Perfect. It's good there. Sourcing date. Okay. So now let's do the same thing over here. Now we have 51 assets here. Let's do some auto sum on this stuff. So auto sum, we can get the bar back on track. It's 5.8 million. Yes, I know. I don't have 5.8 million. I get it. Don't worry about it right now. Just hang on. And then we have you. Oh, cancel. Freeze panes. All right, now we can move it. We have our heading. Okay, that's good. Now we have 12 months of cash flow and 16 months of cash flow. Okay. Now this is down where you can start seeing some information. So that. Auto sum that. All right, so now if we pay the numbers that we talked about, so if we get 431 in monthly cash, 431 divided by what we pay for these assets. All right, the same thing here. If we get 16 months, that comes to about 97%, 9.7, right? All right, now the thing about these now would be to get rid of states that we don't want. Let me blow this up a little bit so we can see stuff that we would like. Now we can filter this spreadsheet and look at the higher returns. So we go over here, 12-month returns, and it's 16-month returns. And we want to see a double-digit return. Now look at this one. This one's at 28%. So they must not owe a lot. Estimated equity to 93. They only owe about $4,000. So we can get rid of some of these small balances. Okay. 9%, 27 grand. That one would make a pretty decent return right there for you. Start looking for high returns. Okay, so here's a great example. This one right here. 70,000 is our offering. It's worth 238, but they got 158 in equity. So they owe about 100. What is that? At least property value. Their legal balance on this, though, is, see, it's vacant, though. But it's in New Jersey. Okay. So this one would make better sense to not. Yep. Okay, so let's look at this one. I'm not usually a good fan. I'm not usually the side of New Jersey assets. But with New Jersey assets, so say I have an expedited foreclosure process for vacant assets. As long as it's vacant, let's take a look at this one. What does this one look like? This property is vacant. And there it is right there. So this looks like it's a duplex or half side. So 7615. It's this side here with the Christmas thing. Boom. I don't know if it's both. You take a look, but it's this one side of a duplex. Okay. There you go. This picture is taken June of 2022. Now, if this was occupied, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole because it'd take 2 years to foreclose. But this one exemption, it might be worthwhile. Now, I usually I don't want to own half of a duplex. That's another thing to think about. But it's near a church and not a bad area town, anyway, from what I can tell. We go back to a spreadsheet. This might not make sense for cash flow, but it might make sense to foreclose because if they only owe they owe 88,000 and you pick that up, you pay 70,000 for it. If you sell it at the auction, you make 17 grand. That's not too desirable, right? Can we agree to that, everybody? So let's figure this foreclosure, gross, ROI. Equal to that divided by what we offer. There you go. You're foreclosing on these. That's where you want to look at. Where does the returns make the most amount of sense dollar-wise? So there you go. 25% is normal because you're buying somewhere around, yeah. Okay. You're making 162. So then what do you do? On these ones that are totally vacant, then you look at the foreclosure numbers. Okay. Like this one, it's vacant in Philadelphia. The borrower hasn't made any payments. They're vacant. Their last payment made was they started foreclosure on this in June. Modified in February, stopped making payments. Okay. 299 days. So basically just it's roughly at that 1 year mark. So yeah, they're not going to probably not going to reinstate. So you foreclose on this thing. Let's see what this one looks like. And here we go. It doesn't look too bad. Well, you can't tell. It's a two-story house. I don't know how if it's in a good spot of Philadelphia, but you know, it's pretty normal. And yeah, it looks pretty normal. Doesn't look too bad. Let's take it from an angle here. I guess it is half a building. You can't tell if it's occupied or vacant. Anyway, back to our spreadsheet. Haven't paid in a year. It could potentially be a deal because you're not going to get that borrower back on track. But if you foreclose on it because they owe, what's they owe again? Sorry. Estimated legal balance on this is 218. So you're paying 80 cents on the dollar for that. Well, so you pay 80 cents on the dollar for the 218. It's worth 790. There you go. Yeah, it's got a bunch of equity. So you're gonna either make out. You offer 175, you make 43 by taking to foreclosure. They refinance you out. Great. Guess what? You took over a $750,000 asset for 175,000. That would be worth if it sells at auction, somebody outbids you at auction. Guess what? You made $43,000, $44,000 on your $175,000. That would be one. It's more the foreclosure process, but that would potentially be a deal if you've got, 180, 200 grand of your own money to put to work there. That could be desirable. Okay. Now, if you want more cash flow, then you want to just focus on the ones that are occupied, not vacant. Okay. So if we filter this list down a little bit more, and are occupied, that'll shrink the numbers quite a bit. And let's see here. Now we could go back and start slicing and dicing, getting rid of some of these. All right, so let's go back over here. Let's get rid of the low balances that don't make a lot of sense for us. Okay. Let's go back to the master and we'll change it up there. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. Select all. Okay, so now we have everything back to normal spreadsheet, and you start looking at individual tapes, looking at individual assets, that kind of stuff. So let's look at the estimated legal balances. We're just going to filter those, get rid of these small balances, really below 25,000. We're going to select them. Now, if you've got a small balance IRA and you want to mess around with your IRA, by all means, go right ahead and knock it out. I don't care. But really, anything under 20 is not going to be worth your time for the most part. Okay, so there you go. Estimated legal balance, small balances. Not saying it could not be good for your IRA. Let's look at where these are at. Connecticut, Canton, Ohio, Cantonment, Florida. I don't know where that is. Buffalo, New York, Jamestown, PA. Don't know Ethelville. Raymondville, Texas. I was just looking at your property down there just recently. Huntsville, Texas. That's where the prison system is at. Let's look at that. Huntsville, Texas. So it would be a good return to get them back on track, but you're probably not going to get this bar back on track. Active foreclosure. Why they had in foreclosure? Because it was just started in August, and you should be able to foreclose pretty fast. Let's look at this thing here. Okay, 120 plus days. Last payment date was September. They only owe 17. Okay. They owe 17. It's vacant. Property value says 160 from 2 weeks ago. Okay, well, let's look at this one. Huntsville, Texas. 61 Amut Young Road, Huntsville. Okay, this is 6 photos. Okay. Oh, hello. 13.75 acres. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Hmm. So it's this here, right here. Hmm. That might make sense to buy. Well, I know what I'm bidding on. You can pick up. Okay, so let's go back to the tape, just so you guys know. So on that one, we're going to keep that one. We're going to highlight that in bright green. Because if I can buy that note, all right, if it's worth, what did they say it was worth? Conservatively, they said the value was at what? 160? Okay. Great. If I can foreclose on that thing, will I get outbid at auction? Probably so. Okay. I pay 14 with my IRA. And what do they owe? Yeah, see, they owe 17. So I'd offer less than that. I'd probably go and offer, okay, 10 grand for it. Corporate advances is 10 grand. So they only owe 5,800. Corporate advances at 8. So the technically payoff's about 17. Yeah, so I might offer 8. Well, if I get paid off at 17, guess what? I'm doing good. I'm gonna double my money. I'm gonna do it relatively quickly. If I don't, guess what? I now owe 13 acres in Huntsville. That might be worth the drive out to take a look at it. So it's about a 2.5 hour drive from where I'm from. From here, north, Huntsville. And it's on the north side, kind of Huntsville. Start off I-30. Huh. Okay. Bingo bango. I'm making an offer on that one, Bongo. That's why you look back at some of the smaller stuff. Sometimes it does make sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? The rest of these, though, where are these rest of these located? Let's look at Raymondville, Texas. 376 East Harris. What do they say the value in this thing? It's vacant. Current value is 156. This is going to be down in the valley. All right. Oh, yep, I've looked at this. This ugly ass house. It's on an acre. And no wonder it's vacant. Raymondville, Texas. It's by the church. This would be worth tearing down the house and you could put a couple mobile homes on the thing, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good sized lot. I know I've already made an offer on this thing. I know I made an offer and they refused my offer because they only owed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Estimated legal balance is 10. I think I offered 2. They said no. The UPB is only $242. Yeah, it doesn't look right. And I don't necessarily want to own anything. So, they haven't sold it yet. Maybe I'll make another offer on it. Come back. All right. Now, let's elsewhere where you guys want to own. Let's see. I don't recognize some of these. Yeah. So those could potentially be, maybe we can get rid of the rest of these. Now let's look at Canton, Ohio. That's where the, Football Hall of Fame is, just for the heck of it. So on this one, no payments. Balance is only 9,500. And they say the value is 233. Let's look at this thing. Looks like this is a mobile home on land. There it is. Huh. Not a bad looking little red brick home. 4954 Freiburger. Freiburger. There it is. Susan Freiburger. Well, is it occupied or vacant? How do you say this is? No payments. Some of these low balances, it might make sense to do some of the stuff to throw, and you get paid off at least if you can get the right price. Worst case, you end up with a nice asset, decent asset, needs some work. That might not be too bad. And no payments, only on 9, maybe offer 3. If I sell it at auction, okay, I make a pretty decent return. If it doesn't sell at auction, I end up taking the property back. Yeah. Okay. Not so bad. Now, if you let's go back here and look at some of these others. All right, let's take it back here to the raw. Where was it? Oh, I know I was taking off the P&I payments. That's what I was doing. Okay. Oh, I had the balances. Sorry. Legal balances are low. That's what I was getting rid of. There we go. Okay. So get rid of these small balances. Anything under 20. All right. So anything's over 20 there. Okay. Their balances are good. Now, the ones that are in no payments, they have never received payments, then you're really looking at foreclosing on a lot of these guys. All right. Active foreclosure. Then it's a matter of just looking at your formulas over here in the states that you want to. Now let's get rid of the states we don't want to really waste our time in. Okay. So we click on here, select the ones we don't want. So let's get rid of definitely New York. For the most part, New Jersey, unless you're living there. Okay. Oregon for sure. I'm gonna get rid of anything in California. District of Columbia, DC. I don't want to really own anything there. Florida, I'm gonna take a deeper look at Illinois. I'll get rid of anything that's in Cook County. Kentucky, I'm gonna get rid of. Louisiana, pretty much can get rid of. Massachusetts, I'm gonna get rid of. Maine, too cold. I'll leave Minnesota in there. Montana, I'll get rid of. Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Vermont, Washington State, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. We're gonna get rid of those. So those selected so we can see what we're gonna get rid of here. Okay. Yeah, Brooklyn. A lot of these are going to be in New York, Illinois, Baton Rouge, Chicago. No, East Saint. Yeah, we're just going to go and get rid of those for the heck of it. You can always go back if you're there. These are primarily the states that have the longest foreclosure time frame out there. Okay, delete row. All right. Now that leaves us with the states that we don't mind buying in, provided that where they're at, they're doing okay. Okay. So now you're looking at, a lot of these are vacant. So if they're vacant, you're not going to get them back on track. But now we have the numbers in here to evaluate what makes sense to either modify. Oh, I must have, I forgot a formula on this base one. Insert. Foreclosure, ROI. You should all be at roughly 25%. Now you can figure out what looks better at the foreclosure markets. Now these 54 percenters are pretty much going to be the ones that are at you're buying at 65 foreclosing and make 65% versus 20%. Okay. But the idea if they've got equity, then you honestly, if you're looking for good returns, then maybe you look at the ones that have the high opportunity to reinstate. Now, if they're vacant, it's not going to be a reinstate, it's more of a foreclosure process. So this is what I always like to look at. If I can get 11%, let's do this. Let's change this up. Let's custom sort it. And change it to estimated equity. All right, now it's all about going back in here. Now you have a number that matches up after we've re-ranked our formulas. But stuff that makes sense if we can get them reinstated here, or fall back in a number that makes sense. Okay. Now these ROIs don't excite me too much because it's like $5,000. That's not a very, very good thing if we have to foreclose only making $5,000. All right. I prefer to be making 20%, like at least 20 grand. So this one might not be too bad. This one here. Let's see if I get reinstated. It's in Reynolds, Pennsylvania. It's kind of rural. It's a bit too rural for me. I'm just going to take it off. But that one in Alpine, out in West Texas, owner occupied. Let's look at this one. This one, they've basically got some equity, 100,000. If we're buying this at 45, and we get them back on track, it's a 14 to 18% return. If we foreclose, we're all going to make 11 if we get bid at auction, but that's Texas. So Texas is a fast foreclosure state. So let's see what this one looks like. See, I've been to Alpine before. It is out in the Texas desert. Oh, well, that's not so bad. Yeah, metal roof. Yeah. This is a picture from about 10 years ago. 12 years ago, actually. The house in front, is that a mobile home in the back? It's 12 years old. Who knows? Until you sit somebody out there take a look at it. But Alpine is out where like West Texas A&M. I've been out there to Alpine before. Not a lot, but hey, you could foreclose quickly, talk to a realtor, see what's going on. But that could, if you look at this, yeah, so if you foreclosed on this one and you made 11 grand on your $45,000 investment, well, if you did that in 90 days, that's not 25% you made. That's 100% cash and cash return by foreclosing. Now, if you didn't sell it at the foreclosure auction, you now own a better asset. If you do sell it at the foreclosure auction, guess what? You made a pretty good return on your money. And that's not so bad for $50,000. If they do start making payments on time at 45,000, let's see, what are their monthly P&I on this thing is? Their interest rate. So they're paying $6,000. Oh, it's at 10.3%. So yeah, if you borrow money at 7-8%, yeah, you could give a decent return on that, or modify it. It'd be sitting kind of pretty. Obviously, if you don't want to own rehabs, then it'd be good just to get rid of the ones that are vacant or unknown and just look at owner occupied. And now your owner occupied ones on these would probably be the ones that would have a high return to get them modified. See, 0%, 0%, that's, you're going to foreclose on those. Okay. Yeah, there you go. These top ones would be the ones you'd look to reinstate. And we looked at the one in Mayo, Florida. We looked at the Hemi one, South Carolina, at lunch today. So there you go. San Juan, Texas. We looked at that before. So these would be the first, be the top 5 or 6 ones if you wanted to focus on these here. That match a pretty good return. If they reinstate, they start bringing 12 months or 16 months to the table. And if they don't, then you foreclose and you make a pretty good yield on a foreclosure. Does that make sense, everybody? That's how you kind of narrow it down. And then you do a deeper dive, checking taxes owed, checking values, But that's all I would do on the front side, is say make some offers off of this list just from doing that and see what's taking place. What questions do you have? Hey, Drew. Hey, Jim. Kevin. Dale. So like this one in Minnesota, Dale, where you're at. Dale, okay. So like I don't know where Monument, Minnesota is. It's fixed. 4.25. It doesn't really make sense. Let's see, when was the last payment made? They're only 60 to 90 days behind. They're not going to really, yeah. That one you want to see a bigger drop off. They've made some payments here and there, but you never know. I mean, you could always make a offer at 65 cents on the dollar. And if our offering, let's look at this here. Okay, 60. Yeah, I mean, so making it, yeah. You can make a cheaper price to maybe get a better yield, but I don't know. Cool. Any other questions from you guys out there? But that's the first step to look at, is taking the time, breaking down, finding assets to make offers on, and looking at your numbers. Okay. Looking at your numbers of what makes sense, what you like, what you don't like. I mean, some of the higher valued ones you probably want to get rid of. Like the 493 here doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a low interest rate in this one. This one is, where's it located? 493. Oh, this one's in Palm Beach, 85. Oh, we looked at this one today. This one's worth 750. It was a pretty good ROI to foreclose on. That's your primary stats. It's a small house. Yeah, 85, 82 Jared Way. Oh, maybe this is a different one. Oh, this is a different one. Sorry. Oh, wow. Okay. $564, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Oh, they've filed the foreclosure, 1,400 days. Okay, let's go back to this. Boca Raton, Florida. Oh, this is the reverse mortgage. Yeah, that's why it's so low. So if you go, okay, now you know. All right, 493 negative equity. That's why you make an offer at 320. Yeah. See, this is straight up foreclosure if it's vacant. Yeah, that would be one to make an offer on, if to foreclose on. This other one here. Paramount Circle K2, Tamarack, Florida, owner occupied. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good yield to foreclose on. Just got to be worried about what insurance costs are going to run in Florida on a specific asset. Run it by your insurance agent. Tamarack. Oh, we got some interior photos. Oh. So this is a duplex there. Okay. Bit of an idea. Yeah. All right. So they only say this is worth like 106. It kind of confuses me a little bit. 160, that's better. Let's say it's worth 229, maybe. Yeah, 148. Facial foreclosure, 80,000 profit. Yeah, that could be another good one there in Tamarack, Florida. Yeah. All right, guys. A lot of stuff to go through. I mean, diving into this one's mostly going to be a foreclosures on it for the most part. The ones that are somewhat under 120 days, it's pretty skinny because there's not a lot. on the lower interest rates, but the vacant foreclosures or even some low balance stuff, if you can get it at a decent price, would make sense for you. I know I plan on bidding on a chunk of these and going from there. So if you're in the WCN crew, I will go ahead and repost this work through spreadsheet in Basecamp for you so you guys can take a look with the formulas and go from there. All right. Question from somebody. Yeah, these are always, that's where you make money, Dale. Great question. Fun stuff, maybe fun to dig for diamonds and the small stuff just for fun. Well, getting your feet wet, buying your first note, going through that process of servicing, setup, foreclosures. Yeah, it may not be get rich quick on some of the stuff, but it could be a decent ROI. You know, hey, you turn 11 grand into 15 grand. It's not too big, but the ROI is pretty good. And it gives you some confidence to go on that route. So, yeah, why not, right? Yeah, I gave up on fast riches. Yeah, same here. All right, Dale. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for hanging around tonight. We'll restream this live, obviously, turn this into a podcast episode. Like I said, if you're not part of the WCN membership and you want access to it, get signed up at noteumbrella.com or get signed up for the class that's upcoming here while we still run the discount. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm always glad to, if you have questions about the class or other things, the membership, don't hesitate to reach out to me. It's at schedule call at talkwithscottcarson.com or shoot me an email directly at scott@weclosenotes.com. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening, and we'll see you guys at the top. Good to see you, Jim. Good to see everybody. Thanks, Dale. Talk to you soon.